Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. My name is Martin Fiddler-Jones. I'm one of the members of the Business Registry Insights Working Group. We've got a few colleagues still joining. We're at 43 at the moment, so we'll start in a few minutes. So get yourself comfy, and we'll start in a few minutes. Thank you very much. We're over 50 delegates now, so I think that's a nice number to kick off on. So welcome once again. I hope you've had a good lunch or supper or breakfast, whichever time zone you're in. This is the second of three global webinars that we're doing today to launch the Business Registry Insights into penalties that we recently published, and also launch our next survey, which is going to be in data verification. There you go. Business Registry Insights has previously been known as the International Business Registers Report, IBRR, and we recently went through a short rebrand to call it Business Registry Insights. You might ask why? Well, we thought that we wanted a name that spoke a little bit more clearly to our purpose, and I think that this group provides insights into business registry trends across the globe, and BRI, as we now call ourselves, is pretty nailed on a good explanation for what we are. Who are we? We're a small international working group ranging from the United States, European colleagues, Tunisia, and all major international associations of business registries around the globe. You can see us all hard at work there. I show you we are hard at work. We're on, I think, day 3 of a 4-day meeting there this spring. And we are a group of business registry insights that bring together insights into business registries by registry professionals for registry professionals. Just a reminder that this webinar is going to be recorded. Your microphones should be disabled, but we do ask you to keep your questions until the very end of our presentations. I'm delighted to be joined today by a couple of my colleagues from the BRI working group. And I'm going to pass over, first of all, to Kirsty from Estonia to talk us through the findings of our most recent survey. Over to you, Kirsty.
Yes, thank you very much, Martin. Hello from me as well. As Martin already said, my name is Kirsty Rätsep and I'm from Estonia, but quite a new member of the Business Registry Insights team as well. And first of all, we'd actually like to go through the last survey we had about penalties. And this was done in the beginning of the year, so now seems like a good time to go through the findings, if there was anything interesting that we found. And with that, I'd actually like to show you the real thing that most of you basically know that there's no paper-based report anymore. We are online and it's all very interactive, etc. So this is something that we actually want to showcase, not just slides, but the real thing. So let me share my screen with you and hopefully you are able to see it now as well. So the penalty survey 2024. We are, first of all, very, very glad that we received the highest ever number of responses for this survey, more than 90 respondents. And as you can see, the globe, it has quite many yellow dots here, but of course, in the future, we would be very appreciative if there would be even more. But nevertheless, thank you for all the registries and jurisdictions that found time and effort and gave us their responses. This is very important. And of course, not to mention that the survey is a collaboration between the many associations, IBRA, CRF, IAC, and ASORLAC. So without those associations, it would be very hard to combine something like this. And as already said, we are not doing it just for ourselves, but of course we are hoping that this information gives you something valuable. Well, either you need to understand how other registries are working, or to compare something, or just get good insights of business registries around the globe. Going to the penalty survey, it is, of course, very interesting topic when it comes to business registries, of how we are able to enforce the obligations that companies might have. And first of all, of course, is the main question if the business registry is able to issue penalties, if they have the authority to do that at all. And here we can see in this little donut graphics that more than 50% of the registries actually are able to issue penalties themselves. There are also those who are not able to do that, or who are doing this in collaboration with another government body, for example. And the magic of Power BI, first of all, you can also see the list of respondents. And the magic of Power BI is that this is very interactive, so you are able to click on different places on this dashboard, and this, when you want to know who are able to issue penalties, just click on the yes option, and this narrows down the list, so you can actually see the list of the jurisdictions that have said yes to this question. This was the first slide, but going forward to the actual details of this topic. Of course, it's also very interesting to know what kind of penalties are the jurisdictions giving out and issuing, and if they're, for example, financial, non-financial, or if there are none. And in this case, we also wanted to know which is the reason that the penalty is given out. And in some cases, there might be no penalty, for example, failure to register an entity, but there might be a late filing penalty, which is financial. And in some cases, there are financial and non-financial as well. You are able to check information on a regional base. For example, if you're interested in knowing information about the countries in Europe, then you can just select the Europe option here, and go through the answers in a more specific way. Or you can just filter or sort the answers to kind of get a list of who are issuing financial penalties for failure to register an entity, and also who have no penalties for this action. So we really encourage you to kind of dive in this tool actually, and check for yourself. Just click on different options and try this out, because it is a valuable tool. It gives you very many options, and we want to make this as interactive as possible, so you would benefit from it and just get the information that you need actually about the specific topic. But going forward, we just go deeper and deeper in this topic. There are very specific questions. For example, if the penalties are issued automatically or at the discretion of registrar, and also, so how are the financial penalties calculated? And as you can see, in most jurisdictions, the penalties are issued automatically, but there are also some cases where it's at the discretionary of the registrar. I guess it's quite interesting to find out how this might be different again when we look at different regions. For example, Asia, you can see there's the same pattern here, that most of are automatic. In Europe, the discretionary one comes a bit more higher, but still the majority is automatic. And again, if you want to see the list of who have which one options, then you can again click on automatic one, and on the left hand corner here you can see the list of jurisdictions that have this option, have chosen this option when they have responded to the survey. Going forward, there's also, we have also put this down on different types of penalties. If you want to know about how the financial penalties are calculated, for example, when it comes to failure to register an entity, if there's a fixed range, if there's a monthly rate, the daily or yearly rate, then you can choose again these options. You can see the percentages here. You can, if you want to just kind of, again, set the region that you're interested in, and then you can see the information in a more specific manner. But again, just this is something that we do encourage you to look into yourselves, and if this is something that you're interested in, then you can also just go through the list of countries. For example, there's Denmark, and we can see that when it comes to Denmark, it's discretionary, and there's for late filing, for example, there's a fixed or within a range a rate of calculation of penalties. So let's move further. In today's world, it's also interesting to know if the information about the penalties is publicly accessible or not. And in most cases, slightly higher than half of the jurisdictions that have answered, the information is publicly accessible, though there is also a bit more than 40% of the respondents who have said that they do not publish information publicly about this topic. Again, this might change when we choose different regions. For example, in Asia, the number is so much less that do not publish information. So you can see that the numbers, when you click on specific topics, is very different. For example, Europe, most of the jurisdictions do not give out publicly accessible information about this topic. Going on, there's also information about what entity types the registry may penalize. In most cases, as you can see, the higher box, the biggest box is that the registry can penalize all entities on its register, but there are also a couple of other options if they're able to penalize sole traders, general partnership, LLCs, or limited companies, corporations. So there's also differences. And again, if you just want to know about the region, if you want to know about the specific country here, then you can just click and you can see information about them as well. So for example, with France, we can see that the information about non-financial penalties is publicly accessible, and they are able to penalize all entities in there. in the registry. So you're able to just kind of go into this, compare different countries, different regions, and why not ask colleagues or the business registries themselves if something is even more interesting to you that you're interested to get more information about. Next one. Of course, if in some cases there's first warning before something someone is actually penalized. So we can see that in most cases, actually, there is a warning process there in the business registry, but this again might differ from region to region, and you can just select different regions to find out if how in different countries or regions this is set. Of course, it might have, it's probably because it's different legislations, but anyway, it's nice to see of how the process usually is in different regions and jurisdictions. And if there is a warning issued beforehand, then there's also the question of how long time the warning gives the company to for compliance. So here we can see that this is also different. If the warning is issued, then most of the jurisdictions give out a defined number of days, but there are also almost 40% of the restrictions that it is at the discretion of the registrar. And when the country has a defined number, then we can see the graphics here that this also varies very much depending on the country. For example, when you see here, the Spain has a year actually given for compliance. But when we see the other end of this list, there's Lithuania and Kiribati, for example, for only 10 days given for the company to set everything correct before the actual penalty is issued. Of course, depending on the legislation, again, there might be an appeals process for the penalties, and most of the jurisdictions have that. Again, this might be very different when we select different regions, different jurisdictions, but it's quite an interesting one. And if there is an appeals process, then we also have asked if the process is internal to the registry or if there's another government or body that deals with these appeals. And this is quite almost 50-50 when we look at the whole picture, but again, might vary depending on a country and depending on a region. We are going into the enforcement now. There are different options. This is something that we might look into in the future of, because most of the jurisdictions said that there's another way of enforcing the penalty to the entities, but there's also more than 20% that give out court judgments. There's the use of debt collection agencies, about 8%, and some are using also the charges on property. And again, if you want to know who are those two that do that, then you can just click on that and you can see more information about this. Which then, when we speak about financial penalties, it's definitely interesting to find out if the penalties are kept by the government or if it goes to the registry themselves. So here we can see that in most cases it is the government that gets the financial penalties, but there's also quite a lot of jurisdictions where the registry keeps the financial penalties themselves. about payment, different types of how the payment is actually carried out. Quite a lot of jurisdictions enable payment in their portal. There's also the PayPal or similar. There's bank transfers. So, and the end, there's also 10% to just allow some other way to use that. But quite an interesting one. That's also maybe that's 20 more than 20% of the jurisdictions enable in-person payments, for example. So moving further, some interesting numbers I would say here now is how many penalties were issued actually in the latest year. So here we can see that the numbers, of course, vary very much between different jurisdictions, and how many penalties were issued. Then on the top rank is the Companies Registry of Isle of Man, and the number here is almost 500,000. Just on the second place is the Companies House UK with more than 300,000 penalties issued in the recent year. But of course, the fact that the penalty was issued doesn't always mean that the government or the registry receives the penalty. And here next you can actually see the information about unsettled penalties. So there's a quite big percentage for some jurisdictions. For example, when you see the first one is the Kiribati, who has claimed in their response that actually a whole lot of penalties has remained unsettled. So might be that these jurisdictions would be interested in looking into the other end of this graphics to maybe learn something from them of how they have carried out the issuance of the penalties. And when we speak about money, then now the Companies House of UK is on the very first top spot of more than 192 million euros in the latest year that was issued. So again, very interesting to see how different jurisdictions have been influenced with the penalties, and how the figures are very, very, very different and vary across of course, the sizes of the jurisdictions is different, but in some cases it might be that some jurisdictions have a very effective or way of penalizing their entities. And in some cases, we can see that in more than half of the cases, a non-payment can result in dissolution of the entity or removal from the registry as well. And in this case, most of the cases, in some of the cases, this does require court action, but so there are different. And again, we can just select the specific region and see the list that is more interesting or more valuable for us if we want to know something specific, or just a specific country. And on the last slide, on the last page of this dashboards, we have also very interesting topics about how the registry themselves values of how, if they have found any evidence that penalties have improved compliance. Of course, intuitively, we all think that they should improve it, but it was very interesting to see if the registries themselves said they have actually the evidence as well, so the numbers or something that might prove it. And this says that most countries say that there is high evidence, or there's at least some evidence that penalties have improved compliance. Or a bit, almost 50%, about 45% of the registries have also the authority to investigate entities. So this is also interesting to see. And if you want to know who they are, then you can just click yes on this graphic, and then see the list of the countries that come out. And of course, keeping the registry is an ongoing process, and legislations change, and the authorities' processes change. So we were also interested to find out if the registry has any authority expanded to include authorization to penalize entities in the last 5 years. So in most cases, they didn't, but there's also quite a high number of 35% of respondents that said that they have expanded their authority to include authorization to penalize. So this is definitely also interesting of how this has been done and what has been done. So this is probably it for the dashboard. If Lubinka can now share the...
Yes, I will grab the screen now. Hello, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Martin, just to be sure, we're doing questions in the end, right? So just, bear with us. And yeah, as Martin said, feel free to drop questions in the chat as well.
Exactly.
I'm happy to take them. So hoping the technology doesn't fail me. Do you see this in
we can see.
Okay, perfect.
But just not the presenter mode yet.
Sorry?
It's not in the it's not the
it's not in presentation.
Yeah. No.
I swear it worked when we tried. Now it's good?
No.
Would you like me to share, Lubinka?
Let me try one more time. I'm sorry. And it doesn't matter even if it's not in presenter mode, but is that better?
Yes, that's perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
And
Thank you.
just to wrap up with the penalty survey topic, then as you saw, there are quite a lot of information. We are very glad again that we had so many respondents that provided this. This right now, everyone has the ability to go to the Power BIs and just look themselves and figure out the information that is interesting for them. But as a group, as the British Registry Insights group, we are also actually interested in maybe going even deeper to find out the specific topics, very like where there has been any changes or any case studies about this. So in this November, we actually will have focus group meetings on this topic, and we are hoping to have some reports or conclusions by the end of the year about this as well. And if you or your jurisdiction has any interesting topics or something that we might be interested in considering these case studies, then we'd be very grateful if you can let us know about you, and we can include maybe your case in this report or case study as well. But now I would give the floor to Lubinka to go over the next survey that you can fill out soon.
Thank you. Thank you, and thanks everyone for taking the time to attend. And we're very happy to be able to have been able to present the results and to also announce the upcoming survey. So these two surveys have one thing in common, and that's that they're being conducted for the first time ever. Since surveys are being conducted in terms of the topics, right? So it was the first time that the group is doing survey tackling penalties, and it's going to be the first time that we would be tackling the topic of data verification. So this was kind of cooking in our heads for a long time, and it really took a lot of effort into producing a questionnaire that would yield some relevant insights. And we very much look forward to kind of getting input and the results from this. When we talk about data verification, we really mean, or we have defined verification as confirming or substantiating that the information provided to the registry is true in the very simplest terms. Why this is important, of course, is to the end of ensuring data accuracy in the business registers, since registries are becoming more and more important in the wider societal context in many different use cases, and serving a lot of different needs for the community. It's not, we used to say it was the business community, now that is even expanding further. So the focus areas of the survey are around institutional interoperability, to what extent that is leveraged to increase data accuracy or to verify data. We are exploring the role of filing intermediaries in this process, also the role of registrar discretion into identifying and pursuing let's say, risky or otherwise questionable data on the register. We want to know more about verification processes for individual data, addresses, authorizations, and so on. And of course, to understand what part of this data verification happens before the data is entered into the register, and if there is anything, any process in place that verifies the data once it's already recorded on the register. So we're very happy to announce that you would be getting an invitation to fill out the survey today, right after this webinar, or soon after this webinar. The deadline for submission will be the 2nd of December. And the guidelines and accompanying definitions would be available at the usual place on the website, and we've provided a contact here, but of course that will also be available in the email and on the website. In the following few minutes, I'd like just to walk you through a little bit through the questionnaire and just give you a preview of upcoming attractions. In terms of what to expect, and just to give you a glimpse of the questions there and of the tool itself. So we are very happy to, it's probably very familiar to most of you now, to have moved to a more significantly more straightforward and more user-friendly survey tool, and that gives us several options to formulate the questions and to make it easier to respond. So you can just see here a sample from the questions. Some of them would allow for multiple choice answers, and that is all written down, or you would be guided through that. In terms of the version of the survey, I just want to highlight that not everyone is getting the same version of the survey, and that depends on some of the answers so that you provide. So some of the questions, we call them filtering questions. So if you answer yes to one question, you'll get a different set of follow-up questions. If you answer no, it would be a different set of follow-up questions. So just keep that in mind. As usual, we have also included some open text fields, and we really encourage you that you take some time to fill these out, as I think the purpose is twofold here. One is that they do give more color to the responses, but the other really important important purpose for us as a group is that it would give us insights as to future follow-up surveys to this. So as we said, this is the inaugural survey on data verification. And while this was compiled in close collaboration with a lot of registry colleagues to come up with this set of questions, we might be getting insights in these fields that we would use as input for further analysis and questions. What I also wanted to highlight is that we as a group have been really lucky to be able to interact with all of you who are answering the surveys, and we've received a lot of support, but also some very, very useful feedback. And we have tried to really accommodate that feedback and make the survey really fit for purpose in terms of everyone being able to accurately choose an option that really fits their unique use case. So or their unique, situation or state of play. So we do understand that this is, the situation in different registries is very different, but I know that all of you have been trying to the best of your ability to respond within the given options. So now in this survey, we have been really mindful of that and have included another option that we didn't include before, which is this kind of a partial yes option, which has been requested by a lot of registry colleagues. So we understand that an answer or something can be applicable in some cases, but not in all cases. So how do we answer in that case? Is it a yes? Is it a no? So we've included here some options, yes, in some cases, and of course, not applicable. So even though we'd like to, maintain this setup where we get structured input, we have expanded the possible options to accommodate for variations in practices. So here, just going through some of the topics, as I said, verification of addresses, some more questions on filing intermediaries, and verification of supporting documentation. Just deep diving into the kind of 5 major topics that I mentioned at the onset. This is about the ex-post verification of data and how that is being done. As I mentioned, there are options to select multiple answers from the list. Everything ends with us requiring the respondent details, and that just gives us the option to reach out to you if we need some context to some of the answers. If something is really an outlier, we want to verify that and understand or confirm that we understand that response correctly. As we keep saying, and we will, I think, keep kind of underlining that we're very proud that this is a collaboration between the major registry associations globally. What we would like your support with for this upcoming survey and going forward is that we do understand that there are registers or registry institutions that are not members in any of these associations. And we just want to highlight that this survey is open to any registry institution globally. So we would really appreciate it if you point out to us or if you engage with peers from a register that you work with, but they're not a member of an association. We would be happy to extend the invitation to participate in the survey in that them as well. So please feel free to reach out to us about that. So I think I have that covered on my end, and now handing it back to Martin.
Thanks, Lubika, and thanks to you and Kirsty both for giving a fantastic summary. I think what's really interesting about all this is that we've just launched the results on the survey on penalties. We just launched a new survey on data verification, and those are two of the really big, interesting areas of corporate registration right now. I remember I was with many people in the IBRA Beneficial Ownership Working Group last week in Brussels, and these subjects kept coming up again and again. I'm just going back to one of your slides, Kirsty. You pointed out that obviously I work for UK Companies House, and we're quite significantly in the lead in terms of the value of financial penalties that we've levied. And you'll recall that when we were in our last in-person working group looking at the results, I was almost sick when I saw that figure, because I actually thought that I'd completed the questionnaire incorrectly. I went back and verified, and it was indeed the correct figure. It's due to the legislative change that we've had with the new Register of Overseas Entities in the UK. But without the business registry's insights process, we wouldn't necessarily be able to be aware that there's that leapfrogging, that kind of paradigm shift that's taken place. So for me, that's one of the reasons why BRI is really, really helpful, is that you might think that you've got a fairly good understanding of where your registry is in the global scheme of things, and then a BRI survey drops and you realize that there's a completely different picture out there, and that can only help to our collective endeavor on this. I'm just going to ask two questions, if that's okay, and if anybody wants to add questions to the chat, please do. I'm kind of filling a little bit here, or put your hand up and we'll bring you in on the mic. The first is for Kirsty, which is, and I'll ask the two questions and then maybe take them in order. First is for Kirsty. So is there anything particularly interesting that kind of pops out from you for the penalties survey results? And the second one maybe for Lubinka, that the new how we arrange the results in the Power BI is really interesting. Is there a reason why BRI doesn't give any narrative on top of that? It seems like we just publish the results and run away. So I know that's a leading question, but I'll let you answer it. Kirsty first.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Well, there's tons of interesting information, and I hope that everyone will go into this and look for themselves. But for me and for the group, I think, as we have discussed, it's one thing is very interesting is how that most of the respondents said that the penalty, they have evidence that the penalties are there to improve the compliance of the entities. I think something that is interesting is what are those evidence, and how they actually measure this. Is statistical information, if there has been some kind of changes in the process of issuing the penalties, that they can see the trends or something like that. So this is definitely something that's interesting for us, and it might be something that we will look into this in a deeper level as well.
If I can just, before taking your next question, if I can just add to what Kirsty said, like this is exactly how we identified the topics for case studies for further follow-up. So we found it particularly interesting as a group coming from the registry community that so many registers said that they have evidence that penalties improve compliance, and that is very meaningful. It is very important, and it kind of substantiates the amount of penalties. Like it provides good argumentation for the penalties being issued and for effort being put in the collection of those, and so on and so on. So that was one topic that we identified for further follow-ups to understand more detail about that. The other one was this topic around non-financial penalties. Well, it would be really interesting to learn like what kind of non-financial penalties are applied across the board. So that's something that we really want to look into. And as Kirsty mentioned, we will be reaching out to some of you. But if you think you have an interesting story to tell in any of those topics, please reach out to us. In terms of just quickly, because I see there's questions also in the chat on providing the data, and those of you who've been around, and I think that's a lot of you, for at least more than 2-3 years, will know how this has transitioned, how the work or the outputs from the work of the working group have transitioned from a I don't even know, like 300-page written report that was printed and very proudly distributed at conferences, and many of us, I'm sure, still keep those. So from that to this, I don't want to say digital. It's the Power BI. I don't know what exactly digital means these days, but the Power BI is there. It's provides a highly configurable way of looking into the data. So we're not talking about static data anymore, and the tool itself provides just very user-friendly ways to analyze the data. So as a group, we're still looking in depth into the results, identifying key issues, key trends, and so on. But we do feel that the power of how we represent the results right now is that you are more easily able to dig into it yourself and find specifically what you need. And again, one of the best things about this survey and the results and the work of this working group is that there is no right and wrong way, right? So it's not that we're making any assertions of this is how you should be doing things, but as Kirsty really said in a very pointed way, well, registries who do have trouble with collecting their enforcing their penalties, here's some examples of jurisdictions that do it right, or that do it efficiently. So reach out to them, talk to them. We're happy to facilitate. All the registry associations are happy to facilitate that contact. So this is the main purpose of how we display the data right now. And even though we do want to make aggregate conclusions, we did want to provide you with specifics, like this is who answered in this way. So reach out to them to get more details. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but happy to take the rest of the questions.
No, that was really excellent, Lubinka. Thank you. And I think you've underlined something that's really you and Kirsty have underlined something that's really fundamental to the BRI project, that this is a project for registry professionals by registry professionals. We try to make it as interesting and globally relevant as possible, but ultimately we need that feedback from the global registry community as to what is interesting for them. So we've identified fees, penalties, data verification. There's going to be a forthcoming survey in the spring that we won't release the details of just yet, but the team are meeting next week in person to hash out the details of that. That's a very detailed and iterative process, but that's reliant on the intel that we've received as individuals and as associations. So if there's any burning issues within your respective registries that you think, do you know what, it'd be really helpful for us to know on a global level what's happening about X, Y, or Z, then please feed that into us, because that is the way that we then are able to leverage this global kind of hive mind approach and identify pockets of best practice or pockets of leading practice around the globe that then can act as beacons for the rest of the global community. I find it absolutely fascinating whenever I see third parties using our data. That's a really validating thing for me, and I'm sure is for others on this group as well. Because we put a lot of effort into this, but we are ultimately doing this from a basis of best guesses and best intentions. So please do feed in anything that you've found from the dashboard. Have you uncovered some nugget of really fascinating data? Let us know. We can do wonders with it. Helen and Stephen, you're with us as well. You're part of the support team for BRI. I don't know if you wanted to add anything. I know, Helen, you've been feeling a bit poorly, and Steve's on paternity leave, so it's only a little bit of a hospital pass. But I don't know, maybe Stephen, if you wanted to say something about any of our Stephen's our technology lead. If you wanted to say anything about our future development of how BRI might look in the coming years.
Yeah, thanks, Martin, and we're constantly listening to feedback from our respondents, and one of the things we're working towards is improving how we collect the data, and then making the process of transforming that data and presenting it in a dashboard quicker, because we know it can take some time to take that data in, transform it, and then get it to you in a Power BI. So we're looking at this from the tool we use at the moment. For example, we'd like to be able to invite people individually to contribute to the survey and have the ability to do things like save down drafts. We'd also like a little bit more flexibility in how we can share the data back out. So originally, we set up our survey using a tool called Survey Sparrow, and then Power BI in the background to present the results. And this was very much a pilot in the beginning, so we're starting to explore other options now and seeing how we can improve the content that we deliver to you. We're also, as part of our rebrand, we're working on a new website to showcase our previous work and case studies and future work as well. And part of that website will have an interactive component that will be separate from the Power BI. So it will showcase some of the basic data about our respondents without having to go into the dashboard for a specific survey to grab it out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting with the group next week and discussing some of those plans, but happy to take any questions around the Power BI or the survey tool itself, if anybody has any. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, there is also an opportunity for a third global webinar later today. I think it's at 1700 local time in the UK, so 1800 in Central Europe, and 1600 UTC. So please feel free to join that as well. Here on the screen is the contact details for the project. It's kindly hosted by our colleagues at IBRA, although you're able to contact anybody who's currently involved with the working group, and we'll make sure that is fed in. Thank you, Marissa. Yeah, it's at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and Marissa will be our lead for our webinar in the Americas. Once this webinar finishes, you should receive a copy of the recording into your inboxes. Please feel free to disseminate that to any colleagues who've not been able to attend today. It's our intention to be as open, honest, and flexible as possible. That involves us having a two-way conversation with colleagues across the entire Global Registry community. So please do feel free to reach out to us. Let's have those conversations, and let's make sure that we have the best knowledge basis for corporate registration across the planet. If there's no further questions, I'll say thank you to everybody. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd. Merci beaucoup d'être venu, and see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
See you.